ever since then, she's not been able to whistle.
Fair enough.
Hello and welcome to the Phil Shy podcast. I'm Peter Bell, and with me the nicest man in comedy, Paddy Linton.
Hello.
Yes, and where are we going to start this week? Well, it's got to be the biggest game of the weekend. Everton versus Sheffield United. I'm taking the piss, obviously. It's Arsenal versus Man U.
Yep.
Very good week for me. Obviously, didn't decide to wear an Arsenal top today. Didn't want to rub it into anyone, but no, it was a very good game actually. I thought very good game. Arteta reverted back to how he normally wants Arsenal to play. Proper back four. Gabriel was back in the team. I think that made a huge difference, especially when Højlund came on at the end of the match. And just going back to what he knows works made a huge difference. I think, especially for the first 20-30 minutes of that game, having that solid back line behind them allowed their midfield to take control of the football match.
Aye.
United didn't really pose any kind of threat until they scored that goal. And you've got to give them credit, it was a very good goal.
Aye, he took it well.
Aye.
He scored a few like that against you.
Aye. No, I mean, like, I like Rashford. I think he's a decent player. He can be a bit inconsistent, but when he finds form, he usually finds it for like half a season or something like that. And I mean, you saw it last season. He started quite poorly, and then there was a sort of middle period either side of the World Cup where he just looked incredible. He was scoring goals all the time. And he's got that in him. He took the goal very well. It's a shame for Ramsdale because he got a finger to it. He just couldn't keep it out. But Rashford's got a really powerful shot. So,
aye.
But then again, as we spoke about, I think every week we've been doing this, Man United's defence is fucking shambolic.
Mate, the fact that they ended the game with Maguire and Evans as our two centre-backs, like, after like all the money they've spent, like they spent the whole summer looking at the guy for Napoli. Who was it again?
He went to Bayern Munich. He's Korean.
Aye.
Min's son, not Hyungmin's son. I think it's like... I think it's got like 2 O's in it. I don't know his name exactly.
I'll let you deal with trying to come up with his name.
He went to Bayern Munich. He was at Napoli and he went to Bayern Munich.
Aye, like, because all the big teams were after him. And the fact that they're finishing the game with Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire's our centre-back pairing.
I think is the Leicester centre-back partnership from 2017 or 18. Like,
hell, man.
Which is just wild to think for a club that spent that much money and you think could be able to pull people in. Granted, Varane was injured before the match, and I think Martinez got injured during it, picked up a knock during it. Shaw wasn't fit for the game, although I think Diego Dallo did a really good job.
Aye.
Yeah, I think he actually put in a real good shift for them. But what was it? I think 35 seconds of in-play football between the two goals.
Aye.
And credit to Arsenal, the goal, the equaliser they scored was some brilliant football. Martinelli looks like he's grown and grown. It used to be a thing where he was very fast. He could take people on and dribble, but his decision making in the final third was never really brilliant.
Aye.
But again, he was 18, 19. He was always, he's dead young. So maybe that's something that he's learning. And, being around people like Saka might help that. Gabriel Jesus as well. But he was very influential in that goal and obviously got the assist in the end. And it's a great finish from Odegaard, but you would expect that from him.
Aye.
But again, they gave him the freedom in the pitch that he was completely unmarked at the edge of the box, and you're like, how good this guy is. He was arguably the player of the year last year. Like, genuinely, he's a fantastic footballer. You're just going, should we mark him? Nah.
It'll be fine.
What's the worst that could happen? Oh, aye, that.
But aye, like, for an away performance, especially in such a big game, like, if you take the lead, you just want to like protect that.
Aye.
Like, you don't want to like fucking like let them on tap you again. Like, just be fucking solid for the next 5 minutes and get the home fans frustrated, because the Emirates can be a bit like fucking quiet when they go down. It's
one of those cliches that I hate in football, but it's always been proven true. The most dangerous time is just after you've scored, because your confidence is up, you're in that sort of frame of mind, you're like, yes, this is brilliant, and then you've not organised your defence in time and the other team's pissed off and they're like, no, fuck it, we're going to go through you. Especially when Arsenal had completely controlled the game at that point. They were like, no, we can't have this. With the Arsenal crowd, I would say that it has been problematic in the past. They used to call it the Highbury Library. Over the past 2 seasons though, they've crowd have really turned it around in there. They
I suppose that's like it reflects the team, doesn't it? Like the team feeds off that, and the crowd feeds off the team.
But I think there was a big disconnect between the Arsenal team and the Arsenal fans, because for a long period of time, it kind of felt like the players were not mercenaries, but they were just there to have fun. You know, Ozil was enjoying picking up his paycheck. Aubameyang, we made him, the highest paid player in Arsenal history, and then he just stopped scoring goals.
Signing David Luiz for crazy money.
Yeah, there was a bunch of things there. It just felt like there was a complete disconnect between the team and the fans. There wasn't enough, I think, Arsenal youth academy products involved or that kind of thing, you know. And it doesn't need to necessarily be a youth academy product. Look at Fabregas, you know, like how much he was invested in that club. In fact, I saw an interview with him 2 years after he left, and he was still referring to Arsenal as us. So, like, I think what they've got now, because they've got so much youth academy in there, because they've got players that seem to really give a damn about them, and the manager's got everyone on side, I think the fans are kind of on board with that now. And you're kind of seeing that across the road at Tottenham as well now, the difference that kind of thing can make.
Rice took the goal well. He didn't really do much in the game. Like he had a kind of quiet game.
I'd say but he had the perfect defensive midfield performance, because you don't want a defensive midfielder to have a noisy game. He won a lot of tackles. He marshalled the opposition. I mean, he kept Eriksen quiet, bar that one through ball that set up Rashford to get the goal. So that's kind of what you want from him. People used to say, Xavi and Iniesta used to say that about Busquets all the time. He never gets talked about because it's all the things you don't see him do that are really important. So I'm again, not putting him in the same category as Busquets. He's arguably the best ever in that position. Just want to make that clear. But I think that's what makes a good defensive midfielder performance, if you're not getting the headlines. Because if you make the headlines as a defensive midfielder, it's usually because you've made a mistake. So, and it was nice to see him properly enjoy it. Imagine it pissed off West Ham fans how much he was into that goal.
When he scored, and he went mental. But that's just like to go back to what you were talking about, the connection between the players and the fans.
Yeah,
like he's just joined the club for coming through the youth at West Ham, and he celebrated like he was an Arsenal fan his whole life.
I know. Yeah, there was also, I think, a clip of him singing North London Forever as well before the start of the game, and West Ham fans were kicking off about that. It's like, sorry guys, he just likes his new team. He's winning his fans over.
For the third goal as well, as much as Rashford took his goal well, he shot out the 50-50, which, like, as a football supporter, like, especially these days, like, there's nothing worse than seeing that, especially when your team's 2-1 down. You're defend. When they had an attacking corner, didn't they?
Yeah,
and then the ball breaks out, and he like pulls his foot out for a 50-50. You're just like going, fuck yourself, mate. Like,
especially for someone like Rashford, who is a Manchester United boy, born and bred, came through the youth academy. You'd think he'd be the one person that would be keen to bleed for the shirt and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I get that, but I also get someone who has had the odd injury in his career and stuff like that, and he's got an international break coming up where he wants to try and like make his mark and get into the Gareth Southgate's sort of mindset and all that kind of shit.
I think he'll still walk into an England team either way, won't he?
But I think he wants to get into the first team, and he's not right now. Because that front line is going to be Harry Kane, obviously. It's going to be Bukayo Saka. And then it's like, Foden or Grealish is probably going to play in the other wing, something like that. Especially the way Foden's playing, but we'll get onto that a bit later. We already mentioned it, but the fact that Maguire and Evans were...
Oh, man.
It's just, is that a coincidence that they happened to concede 2 goals after they were brought on? What I'd say as well about the third goal, like, Jesus before that had done a bunch of really good stuff. He'd looked tricky, looked dribbly, he was causing them all kind of problems. In fact, it was basically him that won the corner that they got the second goal from. But the composure to sit down, I think it was Dallo, or was it Dallo that he did that wee pullback and the guy just slid by like Sol Campbell.
Longest slide in history.
It was really good composure, and then he puts the ball in the back of the net. I watched, it came up on my Facebook, what's Mark Goldridge on he's a Man United YouTuber, and his reaction to that, it was
and there's a fairy flying over, man.
But it was great play by him, and it's really important, I think, that he's back and performing well. Just needs to stay fit. If he stays fit, it could make a huge difference to them. I'd still like another striker in the club at some point, because he's not reliable injury wise, but it was good to see him back and playing well. We've got a couple of refereeing decisions we need to talk about here. What did you think about the penalty that got overturned?
Mate, it's like a lot of things with VAR. Like, if before VAR, would just be like, oh, they're like, it is a penalty, like it isn't a penalty. And then because VAR gets involved, was it clear and obvious enough to overturn it? That's always my question.
I mean, I can see if it wasn't given, I wouldn't complain. But yeah, the clear and obvious thing does bother me, and it's inconsistency, because there was as much contact in that one that was overruled as there was in the one that Rashford got against Nottingham Forest.
Yeah,
that didn't get overruled. Right. They're almost exactly the same tackle, and one gets a penalty and one doesn't. It's like, where's the consistency?
One's at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I suppose that's a fair point. Ten Hag, graceful in defeat. Trying to claim it wasn't offside. I was like, said if you look at the camera angle, it's because it's at a funny angle. And then the referee, the ref Pogmall, came out and said, we don't just look at the one we show you. I know. We look at every single.
That's how VAR works. They draw the wee lines across the pitch.
He's like, everything. Other interventions can be up for interpretation of the referee, but offside is a straight line on the pitch measured by computers. It's not debatable anymore. It's just off. He thought Evans was fouled in the run-up to Arsenal's goal, but Declan Rice's goal. If you watch the full footage, he's yanking Gabriel's shirt as much. It's basically they're both just got hands all over each other, and it's like, well, no, you can't give a free kick for that, because if you're going to do that, it's a penalty as well. So it's not that either. He said that Højlund should have got a penalty for his grapple with Gabriel, but again, they're both holding each other. So it's like, I can get you in the emotion of last minute defeat, but it wasn't a good look, you know.
I know. It's not always easy to put pressure on referees as it was for Sir Alex Ferguson. Now we've got VAR.
It's not just VAR as well. You've got to think about these new rules that have come in, where if only one person can leave you're technically taught the referee or anything like that, it has to be the manager. If the assistant goes up, if the referee gets surrounded at any point, anything like that, he's just going to start booking people. So those new rules that came in at the same time as the time wasting ones, they're really cutting down on all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Also, he's just not as frightening as Sir Alex Ferguson.
No, not a chance.
With Mike Phelan, the wee pit bull behind him as well, bursting a balloon and causing him to shite himself. Okay, I'll go on the next game. We both drank at the same time. That's terrible podcast.
That's all right.
That's all right, says you.
It's all right.
Okay, Liverpool. I've got to say, they looked a lot better against Villa.
Yep.
And Szoboszlai's goal,
he took it well, man.
I'm really glad. I'm really happy to see him in the Premier League, because he's been flying under the radar of everyone in this country for so long.
Do you think it's because he doesn't play for a glamorous international team?
Well, Hungary, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But also I think we do have this kind of tunnel vision that unless you play in England, you're sort of underrated anyway. I mean, obviously the Spanish league and the Italian league used to be the dominant leagues. But ever since, I don't know, Man City got bought over, that kind of thing, England's just had this view that we are definitely the best league in the world, and we are definitely the most difficult one to play in, and everyone else has to prove they can do it over here. It used to get thrown at Messi. Well, he hasn't proven it in England. And I was like, he scored more goals against top 6 English teams than Cristiano Ronaldo, and he played in the fucking league. Like, it's such a stupid argument. But it's not just that he played for Hungary, but it was also Red Bull Leipzig, who are just a team that people don't like anyway. Sorry, Rasenballspor Leipzig. I do apologise before I get sued. But he's always been a really good player, and he's dead young, so it's an exciting time. I think he's going to be a really, really good player for them. I think Nunes played very well as well. Didn't get a goal in this one, I don't think.
No, he got an assist, but it wasn't really an assist. It was a header on target that turned in. But he linked up the play. He occupied defenders. He just looked like. He looked like the kind of guy you want in the middle of 2 quick wingers like Luis Diaz and Mo Salah. So I think that's a positive position. If he can grow into that player a bit more, then he can lose the moniker of Juan de Caro.
Although that header that he put wide at the end is not going to help him lose that moniker.
Very Andy Carroll fucking esque. Did you see Andy Carroll went to the French second division?
I thought he was at Reading, or is he left?
He left Reading to go to Amiens or something. Like they're in League 2.
But whereabouts in France? You might just be like,
and I just fucking slippers on.
Yeah. Go there, nice food, nice weather.
Although, like, can you imagine him like a Geordie try to speak in broken English to like a wee guy in a bakery?
No, he'll have brought Kevin Nolan over with him, just to babysit him. But so the header that he missed, to be fair to him, the way he jumped for it, he kind of put his leg up like that. And I was like, I think he's going to volley that, but he's realised I can't volley that. And that's why he's put the header wide. Either that, he's just been training headers with Bruno Fernandes, but not sure which one. So Liverpool obviously win 3-0, keep a clean sheet in the first game of the season that Van Dijk doesn't start. Coincidence? Probably.
Definitely.
Because they still conceded some chances, and Villa on another day could have maybe got a couple of goals. Alisson putting a decent performance again. Again, you're welcome, Liverpool. That's definitely our fault.
My slagging.
I think Villa aren't going to be judged by the performance against Liverpool. You know, it's not. If Liverpool are on form, they blow most teams away in this league. And it was the most like their last season, not last season, like 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, Liverpool that I've seen since then. They didn't play Gakpo in midfield, which is maybe a benefit. I'm trying to remember who they did start in midfield, because it wasn't Endo, it wasn't Gravenbach. Was it Endo? In fact, Endo might have started.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, maybe he is the Endo there in midfield.
Fucking hell.
That was your joke. You can't go fuck it. That's your joke.
I'm just hearing it back for the first time, and it's fucking horrific.
Someone doesn't watch our reels, does he? Trent, I thought had quite a good game because he didn't have to do any defending at all. So he was just free to pass about, and he went on a wee run, had a shot at the end.
He can ping a pass though, like
he can. Although Jermaine Jenas on Match of the Day 2 said he was the best passer in the league, and I was like, you do know Kevin De Bruyne is just injured, not retired. Like, come on, let's be real here. No, but he is absolutely brilliant at passing, and I think that makes sense because England have registered him as a midfielder for the next 2 games that they're playing.
I'd like to see him play defensive mid. I think he'd do a great job at it.
No, 100%. I think he'd suit it quite well because he's not brilliant defensively, and if you bring in another right back, it takes all the pressure off of him because he was getting a ton of press about him, a ton of focus and all that kind of stuff, and it wasn't helping his game at all last season.
Plus, like a lot of managers built into their tactics, like just fucking fired in the left because he can't like cope with like people running in behind them.
Aye. The one thing I would say about Liverpool in this game is I thought they were quite wasteful. They could have won that a lot more convincingly. They had 17 shots and only 4 were on target. And usually you'd want about 50% of your shots to be on target. I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's still early days in the league, but you'd want them to do better. That's all I'd say about that. Now we're going to move on to a team you hate versus a team I hate. Burnley versus Spurs.
Oh, mate. The Spurs looked fucking phenomenal, mate. Like,
I know. It's day my tits,
especially because they conceded so early, but they just came back. They were like fucking flying.
Aye.
Like Son, his first goal, took it like a striker. Like, and we've talked about like, who's going to be their striker, who can do it. We've no talked about Son doing it because for the entirety of Son being there, fucking Kane's been there, so he's never played through the middle. First game through the middle, he scores a hat trick.
It was also a matter of that I don't think for a long period of time till they got Solomon tied down and Kulusevski brought in on a permanent. Who else were they going to put out in the wing?
You could put Richarlison at the wing and fucking Son for the middle.
Yeah, but they put Richarlison on the wing last season. Look how that went. It's like they don't want to do that. I do want to give Burnley some credit though, because their first goal was a really nice team goal, passing back to front. It was very nice, and it was very strange seeing Burnley play football.
Yeah,
and not just lump it up to some big bastard up front, you know. It was very
4-4-2, massive striker.
Let's get up to Chris Woods or Ashley Barnes and hope that they just punch someone at the road, you know. With the Son thing, do you think he's going to stick with that for the rest of the season?
I think it'll be something like, I don't think you can't not put him through the middle after he scored a hat trick. You know what I mean? Like, and see how it goes. There was a couple of passes for Pedro Porro, who I thought looked dog shit last year, and he looks phenomenal in this setup. I think it was the first goal, we put a ball over the top, and then for his third goal, the pass in behind. Yeah, and it's cause of the way Ange sets up his team. Like he's pretty much in a centre circle, just like inside for the centre circle, and he manages to like whip that ball in. Whereas in like any other setups, the fullback would be much wider and he wouldn't even have the chance to play that ball in.
Aye.
And the ball in and the finish was fucking superb.
Yeah, if I was him, I'd sit with it as well, especially if that game is any indication of how Manor Solomon's going to play for the rest of the season. Like, don't get me wrong, I knew he was a decent player, but the link-up play he had with Maddison and Son already, they look like a team that's been together for a while.
Aye.
And this is one of the things that I was potentially going to talk about later if we've got some time, about who did the best at the transfer window, because obviously it's the first one back since it closed.
Aye.
And Tottenham's transfer window is looking better and better and better with every game they play, because they just seem to have picked up players that can fit into this model that he's trying to play straight away.
And they've no spent a crazy amount either with the money they brought in for Kane.
Yeah, exactly. So the problem is, right, I enjoyed watching that match. I enjoyed watching the way Tottenham played. I like James Maddison, but it's Spurs. I don't like Tottenham.
Did you have them finishing top four? I didn't have them finishing top four.
I had them sixth, which I don't think is ridiculous. But if they can keep this up all season,
unbeaten start.
The problem is if Maddison gets injured, or if Son gets out injured, or particularly in defence, if one of their centre backs gets injured, the replacement for him is nowhere near. There's a huge drop off, and Ange can only do so much with that, because you saw that at Celtic when Cameron Carter-Vickers got injured for Celtic. There was a big drop off in the performances. They generally still found a way to win, but that's because it's generally speaking a two-team league. But it's a huge drop off if any of their key players get injured, particularly Maddison, because he's doing so much for them right now. Like, he's reminding me of a kind of mix between Moussa Dembele, their expert, and Eriksen, not like to the same extent on both, kind of a jack of all trades of those two players. And he looks so good.
He took his goal really well.
Yeah, he did. It was a brilliant finish. And he's just doing everything for Tottenham right now. And I think because they've become so instantly reliant on him, if he was to get injured, that then could be a big problem for them going forward. But annoyingly, they are doing really, really well.
Top four, mate? Could they win the league?
No.
I'm going to just wind you up with that every week.
No, because
could they finish above Arsenal in the league?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be Man City and Arsenal top two. We'll come on to Man City a bit later, but yeah, because they look frightening right now. But no, Tottenham look really good. And if I ever need a reminder of why I hate them, I can just go on to their fan Twitter and have a read through of the kind of stuff they're saying, and that'll remind me why I don't like
You mean
them.
X, mate? X.
Oh, sorry, X,
formerly Twitter.
But
I still get emails from him saying it says X, formerly Twitter. Why?
Yeah, X brackets formerly Twitter.
Just call it X if you want to call it X.
Just call it Twitter.
It's just Twitter.
Stop fanning about. With Burnley, there could be an element of Norwich about this. The team that plays the best in the Championship does not necessarily become the best of the promoted teams in the Premier League because they don't know how to play defensively, and now they're up against better teams.
Aye.
So we talked about the run-in they had last time over the next few games. It's difficult football matches. I think Newcastle's one of them. I think they've still got a couple of the other really, really big boys to play in this run. And like we said, by October 21st, they could be on like no points still.
It's a lot, man.
And that is
a lot to claw back.
Yeah, it could be a real problem for them. And you never know, like maybe against the weaker teams in the Premier League, once they get a run of those games, the way they play football can shine through and they'll get a couple more goals. I mean, they scored 2, which is better than a lot of teams have done. So
I think this Spurs team will concede a lot as well. Score a lot, they'll concede a lot as well.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. So Chelsea...
Fuck.
Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, and I'm not really enjoying this. I wanted to talk about the Chelsea lineup because it's the first time in years where I've looked at it as an Arsenal fan and gone, I wouldn't take any of those players over an equivalent in Arsenal. So Sanchez in goal, I wouldn't have him over Raya or Ramsdale.
Right.
Gusto, who? Disasi. Thiago Silva, 5 years ago would have loved him. Levi Colwill will be a good player, but he's not there yet. Zinchenko's better than him. Gallagher over Rice, no. Caicedo and Enzo. Enzo if he reaches potential, Caicedo if he reaches potential, but I wouldn't have them over Odegaard right now, certainly not, or Thomas Partey. Sterling is perhaps the exception, but who are you kicking out for
Saka,
him?
no.
Martinelli or Saka? No, not really. Jackson after that finish.
Fucking hell.
I mean, that's a good party to start on. How the hell did he put that over the bar?
Like, I felt like when like I was watching highlights for it, like I felt like Sterling was about to fucking pull out his cornrows at one point. Honestly, like the amount of chances he created, the amount of like runs he made in behind and like squared it.
Aye.
And like there was one where Jackson miscontrolled it, edge of the box, like pure schoolboy shit, and then the stretch and finish for that. Like he had all the time in the world. Like why is he like flapping his leg at it? Like he could have just stood there, let the ball come to him, and just.
I think Max Rashford said, see if he just continued rushing at full speed and the ball just hit off, and it would probably have gone in.
It's a terrible miss.
Sterling and Chilwell, they just looked so frustrated at the end of that game. Like, what are we meant to do with these guys? Like, because obviously they're two real, genuine quality footballers, like genuinely good footballers, and they've got plenty of experience at the top level, and now they're just surrounded by kids mostly. And
kids that they've spent £1.25 billion on in the last like 3 windows.
Yeah. I think that in this window they spent over 400 million. And I think it was Rory Jennings, he's a Chelsea fan, and he does a bunch of football podcasts, and usually he's quite reasonable and stuff like that, but he was posing the question like, do Arsenal now have to win the league because of how much money they spent? It's like, you've spent almost double what they have. It's insane. It's a strange time when I'm looking at the Chelsea team that's dominated the past like 20 years of English football, and it's fair to say they probably have, because they've won more trophies in that period of time than I think any other English team. They've won Premier Leagues, Champions Leagues, all the domestic trophies as well. They won the Club World Cup, and now they just look lost.
Fucking Mudryk looked terrible.
Mudryk is shite, man. I honestly see as an Arsenal fan, thank you so much, Chelsea.
They don't spend 100 million or something?
I think the basic, it might have been 100 million euros, but I think the entry, like the minimum they'll pay for him is about 84 or something like that million pounds. Yeah. But again, I do have to say this for them: 76% possession, 21 shots, and it's not the first time this season they've had stats like that and not won the game. And that's like...
But it's not like the keeper was making Hans great saves event. They're just terrible at finishing.
No, and it is a problem if you're going to have stats like that and not turn it into victories, because that can very quickly eke away at the confidence of the people taking those shots. If they're constantly getting a chance to score and ballsing it up, that's going to eventually wear away at you.
Alanga took his goal well.
He did, and he skinned a couple of boys later on. He looked...
Aye. Did they get him a permanent deal for Man U or is it on loan?
I think he's a permanent, because...
Could be a good bit of business.
You know what Nottingham Forest are like? They'll just buy... everybody.
Players, but like they don't spend a lot of money.
Well, sometimes I think Sangari was quite expensive for them from PSV, which is mad, by the way. They are, by all accounts, and I think you'll be all right. I think you'll be safe this season. But Nottingham Forest are, by all accounts, a relegation battle team. That's where they're going to be. They're hoping to just survive, and they get Ibrahima Sangari from PSV, who are in the fucking Champions League this year. That's just mental.
Did PSV qualify for the Champions? Who did they beat in the qualifiers?
I don't know, Patrick. I don't know. Faith and Fakora. One last comment in this game. Steve Cooper looks like an alcoholic Ned Schneebly from School of Rock. Every week I'm going to come up with a new manager comparison for you, but he really does. Or if like Ned Schneebly had sex with a blobfish and then that was the resulting baby. But but still, good manager. So
a great manager.
Well done, you.
Good guy. Seems like a nice guy.
Okay, so who's next? Crystal Palace versus... So it was the Eagles and Owl versus the Wolves. I think Eze in the first, like when they made that first run, should have been booked for diving.
Yeah,
because VAR looked at it, said it wasn't a penalty, and he didn't. There was no contact, so I think that
used to always be my biggest frustration. Like if a player goes down and it's not a penalty, like surely you should book him for diving. I know that sometimes like they can make contact, a player can hit it, but it's not a penalty. But if you've got VAR, like
you should be able to tell.
I think we should be able to eradicate diving for the game. That was one of the biggest things when VAR came in.
Yeah,
to like he should get booked, or like just retrospectively ban somebody for one game for diving, and it would just stop it. Like,
to be fair, maybe the referee was just afraid of Roy.
Roy's swooping in, man.
He's just looking over
him, flying up.
He's sharpening his talons or like maintaining eye contact whilst devouring a mouse or something like that.
Boy.
It's just not going to make sense to anyone that hasn't seen it. Roy Hodgson is an owl. That's all you need.
He looks like a fucking owl.
Yeah, so a great cross in for Edward's goal. Nice to see him scoring. It does annoy me that they don't sing "I Want to Be Edward."
I know,
because it's one of the best chants.
It's on a plate.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I suppose
to be fair, he's not given them much reason to sing it. Is he?
He's not been that great, and they probably don't want to be Edward. To be fair, but he played really well. His link-up play with Eze, not just for the goals he scored, but there was a couple of wee flicks and tricks he was doing where he looked, and that's the kind of player we know him to be. Yeah, because he was I always said that Dembele was a better goal scorer and Edward was a better ball control dribbler. So if he can find that form, that front three of Olise, Eze, and an in-form Edward, that's going to give a lot of defences trouble. Because they can all dribble, they can all swap over, and they're all capable of scoring goals.
They didn't miss Zaha as much as I thought they would.
That's what's, I think, really impressive with what they've done. I think with both Olise and Eze, they both went out the Championship and basically picked the best winger in the Championship.
Yep. For
each season they bought one of those guys. And now they've just come up and flourished in the Premier League. And they're not going to miss Zaha because right now, you could argue those two players are better than him.
Yeah.
They used to be so reliant upon him. Like, the games he was out injured compared to the games he was in, like, their win percentage difference was huge. Now they've got players that can actually fill that role. And a motivator like Roy. They look like a decent team, and I hope for Edward's sake he can find his old form, because he was a beautiful footballer to watch when he was in form, and if they can do that for Palace, and I like Palace. Selhurst Park is a great wee atmosphere for a stadium that size. They make a hell of a lot of noise. So it'd be nice to see them like not have to shite themselves over relegation this season. So Wolves can't score a proper goal, can he?
Was it last week after back?
Yeah. And that, like, see when Hwang's header went in, I was like, oh, that's a bullet header, man. That looks great. And then they showed it just bounced off his shoulder. You're like, jeez, you're in dire straits. But it was a goal, Jamie. It was a goal.
It counts, mate. They all count. Doesn't matter how they go in.
Yeah, I still think they're in bother, man. Like, they played some decent stuff at times, but that's been true of them most of the season. And they could be in a deep world of shit, but we've said that all season. So, City.
Unreal, mate. Considering all the players they've got out.
Yeah, KDB, Kevin De Bruyne injured, Stones injured, Grealish injured. They've lost Gundogan, Mahrez, Laporte and Cancelo in the transfer window, and they still look like they're in a completely different league to everybody else.
Incredible.
It's
the new signing, what's his name? The winger, he looked fucking great.
Doku.
Oh man, he looked fucking great.
He's a Football Manager legend, Jeremy Doku, yeah.
No, he looked fantastic. Like,
he's one of the most promising young players in the world.
Skinning people, man. Haaland hat-trick, obviously.
5th hat-trick in the Premier League already.
And
it's
how
like
many
36, 38 games, something like that. Basically a season, he scored 5 hat-tricks.
Incredible, man.
Yeah, it's absurd. They were completely dominant. Foden, again, just tearing the opposition apart. And the thing is, like, I know 4 in a row has never been done. 4 league titles in a row has never been done. Is that what they're going for now? Is it 4 or is it 3?
Now it'll be 4, won't it?
4. I know retaining the Champions League is very difficult, but I'm struggling to see who's going to beat them in any competition they're in.
I know, they look great, man.
Because they're missing 3 key players. John Stones was one of the players of the season last year.
Yeah.
Kevin De Bruyne is, in my opinion, the best footballer in that league. And Jack Grealish had a brilliant season last season. All of them are out. They've lost Gundogan, who came up with clutch goals at important times last season.
Big games.
Cancelo, okay, he wasn't there for the second half of last season, but he's one of the best fullbacks in the world. Laporte, an incredible centre back. Mahrez.
They've just got so much depth, man.
They're
like,
just
every position.
Not arsed. They're like a very rich Brighton. No matter who they lose, it's just like, oh look, here's another fucking amazing footballer. Alvarez, he doesn't get spoke about enough because they've got Holland there, but 14 in his last 14 home starts, he's scored 14 goals.
That's incredible for somebody that comes off the bench.
I know,
for like 20 minutes at the end.
They just
once Haaland's usually once Haaland's got his hat trick, he comes off the bench.
He comes on, but yeah, they just keep doing it, and it's going to be a problem for the rest of the league. But again, we do have a refereeing decision to talk about.
Kanji. It's offside,
Akanji.
mate. It's offside 100% of the time. I feel that if there's any shot where a player jumps out the way of the ball and it goes in and he's in an offside position, it's offside. Because it affects what the goalkeeper's going to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the best case for it. If, playing devil's advocate, I wanted to try and justify why they didn't give it. Because usually in the argument of a player being in front of the goalkeeper, it's in his line of sight. That is the line that they use. Is the player in the goalkeeper's line of sight? And he wasn't. He was
fair enough.
To the side. It didn't impede his view of the shot.
But like, even if he's in the keeper's peripheral vision, man, like...
Aye. The reason I don't think that matters is because the goalie will be thinking in his head, if the shot goes over there, it's going to hit off him and he'll be offside, so it's fine.
Aye.
And he only moved
or if he touches it, he's offside.
Exactly. So he's not thinking, I need to get over there straight away. That's accounted for by him being there. So I agree, I think it is offside, but that would be the potential explanation if they are going to be asked to give an explanation as to why it wouldn't be. But
it wouldn't matter for the full time result anyway, would
exactly. it? Marco Silva was raging about it, and I understand because goal difference can be important, and especially if you do end up in a relegation battle. But the idea that it was going to make any difference to that match, that they were somehow going to pull it back in any way, shape or form, nah, I'm sorry, you got pumped. Newcastle, Brighton.
Fucking hell.
I'm sorry, mate. But I don't think the scoreline reflected this at all.
Newcastle started really well.
Yeah.
Tonali looked good.
Yeah, completely controlled the early part of the game, and then Billy Gilmore took over and controlled the second part of the game. But even after you were a few goals down, still creating chances, still looking decent. It's just you weren't scoring.
Isak had a big chance that he fucking scuffed wide.
Aye. I think Evan Ferguson basically was the difference between the two teams on the day. And again, we picked him up last week. There he is, scoring hundreds of goals.
His second goal was frustrating to watch.
Yeah, the space he had.
Like both centre backs just running. Well, I don't know if it was both centre backs. I think it was.
Well, Botman's injured, isn't he? Just now he's not playing.
So it was Dan Burn and I think it was Target that was running backwards. Those two that were running. Oh, Shaw. But I just give him that much space. It's so frustrating. Like, it's not like he's like 45 yards out. He's pretty much at the edge of the box. Like, somebody needs to just go to the ball.
Don't get me wrong, he did really well. It's a brilliant finish.
It's not an easy finish, but
he should not be given that kind of space. In the first goal, like Newcastle completely been in control of the match before the first goal, and then Nick Pope. That is a blunder.
2 mistakes, mate.
Yeah.
Like, see, he didn't get punished for the first one for the bad clearance because
it's kind of still in that sort of play, you would say.
And then he makes a save, which you're like, all right, he's made up for it. And then a simple save.
Yeah.
Missed, like, just drops the ball in front of fucking Ferguson, who's always got to finish that.
Yeah, it wasn't his best performance. And I do feel a little bit sorry for him because particularly at Burnley and when he moved to Newcastle, I've always liked Pope. I always thought he was a good goalie. But
good keeper.
He's making a few mistakes now. It's getting a bit more frequent, and we haven't seen what this board are going to be like fully yet.
Yeah.
But if they're wanting to get to the Champions League, eventually win the league, all that kind of stuff, which is definitely going to be their plan, they're going to put pressure to get rid of players or managers or whatever if they don't think they're up to standard.
Let's throw in Lois Karius. Here we go. He's never made a mistake. He's never made a high profile error in his life.
Never in his life. Never in his puff. So Evan Ferguson, what do we think? Going to Chelsea next year for 300 billion?
Aye, and then he'll score like 2 and 29.
Aye, because they'll ruin him. Yeah. Hopefully not. I hope he stays with Brighton for a little bit because he's still only 18.
Yeah.
So hopefully he realises that he's at their best. At his best, staying there for his development.
It's mad that Brighton are still so strong and they came out the transfer window in profit.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
It's mind-blowing.
Incredible.
I know this is a big thing to say, but I genuinely think they're the best ran football club in the world.
Definitely in the Premier League.
Because if you look at how they buy and then sell and buy and sell.
I don't know if you've heard of Shelton Juniors, mate. They're so well ran, mate. I know a few of the boys up there.
Surprised you know I haven't heard of Shelton Juniors.
You will.
Comment if you've heard of Shelton Juniors.
It's like, oh, my
In fact, don't. It won't be legible and it will certainly not meet with community standards.
You've just got yourself slashed, mate.
Come on. But no, I obviously was saying every time we either badmouth or praise someone, they always do have like a brilliant week. They play a blinder, you know. So Nick Pope.
Clean sheet next week, Ben.
No, because they're not playing next week. So it's have to be something else, like he just cures someone with leprosy or something. It's just, do people still get leprosy?
He'll cure it, mate.
Aye. Well, he's the Pope.
Oh, you got in there, mate. Shark eyes. Rat bastard.
It's not an overreaction at all. So the next few games, that's what I wanted to say about Newcastle as well, because the start, we touched on this last week, but Villa, City, Liverpool, Brighton, it's a pretty tough run of games. Their next few games are Brentford at home, Sheffield United away, Burnley at home. You need 7 points from them.
Minimum.
Aye. If you don't get that, I think Howe might be under a bit of pressure. I know it's early.
But we still don't know what this board's like you said, man.
Yeah. Hopefully it's just pressure regarding his job and not his health, because you know what they're like.
They'll have him fucking top of the stadium with a blindfold on. And throw him off. They've done it before.
They have done it before, yeah. But they also don't like journalists of any kind, and this is teetering on the brink of media, so
it's fine.
We love you guys.
I'm a Newcastle supporter.
Sponsor the pod. What else we got? I don't really want to talk about Everton Sheffield, but it was a much more interesting game than I thought it was going to be. Who saw that being a 2-2?
I know.
It's mind-blowing. It was still quite shy though, despite the 2 goals. Everton's first one was such a mess. It was scrabbled over the line by Decore. I'm trying to think. Good goal from Sheffield though.
Archer.
Yeah.
Arrowed it into the corner.
With McBurney setting him up. Ollie McBurney, or as my friends called him when he was playing for Scotland, he had really short socks on. He went, baby giraffe, small socks, cunt.
Baby giraffe, small socks, cunt. That's a better name.
Yeah. It's amazing that he's back in the Premier League. And I don't mean that in a positive amazing. I mean, I'm genuinely amazed that he's somehow back in the Premier League. Good cross from Patterson for the Everton equaliser.
Yep.
So they haven't completely ruined him yet. That's nice to see. Hopefully, I'm hoping he gets a move away because I like him and I want him to be good for Scotland. We need right backs, and he is one. Sheffield will probably feel like they should have won that game.
I think every team playing Everton just now feel like they should win that game. Like,
apart from Wolves, actually, because they stole that result. But Pickford made some big saves in the end after scoring an own goal. It wasn't really his fault, but you know.
Rolled off the post.
What else have we got? Bournemouth Brentford. Again, not a brilliant display of footballing prowess.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the kind of match that either team will be that bothered about getting a draw out of.
Brentford probably should have won, but
yeah. I mean, actually, mind-blowingly, yes, because the amount of chances they had.
Yeah.
And that one that came to, was it Keane Lewis Potter? And obviously it's a difficult hit, it hits off his knee, but he's on this side of the goal. The near post is there. All of the goal is completely open. There's no one on the line at all. And he somehow conspires to hit the other post. Not the one near him, the other post. Like, it's... I don't know how he did that, but I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't have been able to keep up the play anyway, so who am I to talk about it? What else have we got? Oh, yes, I did want to make one last time about this. It was great to see David Brooks score. Coming back from, I think it was Hodgkin's lymphoma he had.
Yeah.
He looked really good before he went out, obviously, with that. Looked like a really positive player for Bournemouth. So it's good to see him back scoring goals and playing well. So it's just that was just a nice wee moment from that football match. And then obviously the equaliser from Mbeumo. What a touch to turn the defender.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous. I mean, obviously I said I don't think he's at the same level as Tony, but apparently he's been listening and he's like, I'm going to fucking show you, Pierre. Oh, that's a fun fact. This is good. Again, more mental. Do you know who wants to sign Ivan Toney? Hazard, I guess. Who wants to sign everybody?
Fucking Saudi
Chelsea.
Oh, did he? Yeah. What? Financial fair play needs to step in at some point here, man. Like,
what a vote of confidence to Nicholas Jackson that is.
I know.
See that guy that's out for 8 months? We'd rather have him
than just got to keep him fit until you just fucking hold his place.
Luton West Ham. Pretty standard win for West Ham. Nice to see Kenilworth Road in the Premier League, although I do feel sorry for the people that own those houses.
I know.
Fucking Green Street elite. Just walk through your back garden, there's nothing you can do.
Walk past your window.
I'm sure that was quite an experience for them. But all the players that we've been talking about for them that have been doing really well. Bowen got a goal, an assist for James Ward-Prowse, an assist for Paquetá. They're just a very good, solid team right now.
West Ham look great, man.
I know I said about Spurs potentially winning that transfer window, but West Ham have to be up there as well.
Yeah.
The business they've done and the way it's improved them, it looks really good for them.
And the fact they never signed Maguire. Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant business right there.
What a shrewd bit of business that's turned out to be. Although we've not seen Mavropanos yet, and he was not brilliant when he was at Arsenal, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Zuma scores a header.
There we go, man.
So presumably he's been down at the RSPCA having someone throw cats up there.
Just he done cats.
I don't know why that thought really tickled me, but I was like,
it's just the image, like somebody launching cats and them, doing them for
like an alley-oop basketball.
Oof.
But no, again, West Ham, what can I say? You look like a really decent, solid football team. It's actually quite reminiscent of Brentford when they came up in their first season, where it's just very well organised, very well drilled. You can have most of the possession, we'll score goals. And obviously that isn't what happened against Luton, but they just look like they're going to go into most matches pretty comfortable that they can handle whatever's coming at them.
I think once the Europa League kicks and it starts testing our squad a wee bit more, I think they'll struggle a wee bit during that period. But never know.
They've still got a lot of the big teams to play. I know they've played Chelsea already, but so what?
Oh, fuck.
So they've still got a lot of big matches to go. So we'll need to see. But they look decent. I think they could be on for a sort of 10th or 9th this season. I didn't have that at the start of the season at all. And obviously our predictions are locked in now. But I think they're on to a good season. I think we've covered all the games. But
like the Champions League draw was this week, wasn't it?
Oh, in fact, before we got that, got the transfer spending this summer.
Oh, aye.
So, like you've touched on it with Brighton, who spent 84 but made £198 million.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so their net spend is like minus £114.6 million.
There's only 4 clubs that are in profit, and they're one of them.
Wolves, not surprisingly, but that's not a good thing for them. West Ham, they're in profit. That's really surprising.
Most of it through Rice on it though.
Aye, but who else did they sell? How did they get the other 35 million?
I can't mind.
See, we're experts on this podcast, really. Everton in profit as well, but again, I think their fans would rather they burn. Newcastle didn't make any sales. That surprises me.
I know.
Or they probably released a few players, but no sales.
They've got like a massive squad, but they need it for the Champions League.
Chelsea spent 434.5 million.
Sake, man.
Yeah,
it's disgusting. Like they spent more than double of Man U, who are second.
Aye.
Like, how the fuck are they getting away with this?
Spent more than double than Arsenal, than Tottenham, than Man City.
Yep.
It's mind blowing to me. They did sell 237 million, but that was mostly to their pals in Saudi Arabia, I think. So it's generally speaking, the only real outliers are Brighton and Wolves at the bottom and then Chelsea at the top. The rest is kind of what you would expect. So the highest net spends are Chelsea, United, Newcastle and Arsenal respectively. And Bournemouth.
I know, how the fuck are they signing?
Scott Parker must be fucking raging, man. I know we said it before,
20 million
but
spent.
Yeah, he's like, here's 20p, get a Tizer, and now they're going, here's £120 million.
Like, I only seen this today, but like Luton, they never sold anybody and they only spent $9.5 million. Like, to come into the Premier League.
It's because they have to spend the rest of their money on the stadium.
Probably, actually.
And also, and I'm no disrespect, but you're not a Premier League team. Like,
maybe
they're
the new.
But no, they must have been surprised when they came up. They can't have possibly gone into last season going, we're going to get promoted.
Like, come through the playoffs. They would have had their stadium ready if they thought they were going to get promoted.
No, it's like if you get a free upgrade to first class on a plane, like, you know you don't belong there, but you're just like, I'm going to drink and enjoy myself. Like,
act like you belong.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're scum, but you know, I'm saying we are. That's what I'm saying. So what about the Champions League groups then?
So Man United have got Bayern, Copenhagen, Galatasaray. It's a good draw for them.
Yeah, I reckon like Bayern might give him a wee doing, but
especially away.
Aye,
but like it's a fine chance.
Galatasaray and Copenhagen, they should beat. Although I've heard that Galatasaray they've got some good players. They actually look decent going forward, but it's Man United, and we keep getting told that the Premier League is so much better than everybody else.
Aye,
Turkish league shouldn't be able to put up a fight against them.
Arsenal, bit tricky having both Sevilla and PSV. Sevilla, PSV and Lens.
If Arsenal don't get out of that group, that's bad.
But Sevilla and PSV are no mugs. Like, there's no glamour tag there, do you know what I mean? But
no, Sevilla particularly because Europe's their jam, but the Europa League is their jam. And I think they'll want to finish third just so they can get back out of that and win it.
Win it for the 53rd time.
Got to bear in mind, PSV got into the Champions League groups through the qualification process.
Who'd they beat?
I don't know. Sevilla got into by virtue of winning the Europa League, I'm sure.
They win it every year.
Yeah. So, like, there are two teams that, through their league possession, didn't automatically qualify for the Champions League. So, a team that finished second in the Premier League should be able to beat them. And I'm not saying they will, and I'm not saying it'll be comfortable, but if Arsenal don't, then you've got to be very disappointed with that.
Man City, they got Leipzig, Red Star Belgrade, to use their old name, and Young Boys. That's pretty much the best one I could have got for each pot there. Like even they'll cruise that.
See, he's a Celtic fan. When I saw that group, even though Man City were in it, I was like, I'll take 2 doings off them to be in that group. Genuinely. No, that's and I know it's arrogant potentially, but that's a team. That's a group where they could put out their second string team basically for the entire thing. And should still
be fine. They'll absolutely fine. And then Newcastle are in the group of death.
Yep.
Milan pot 3, Dortmund and PSG.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's incredible. I found it mental that Milan being semi-finalists last year were in pot 3.
I've just realised you're in a group with 3 previous winners of it.
Aye.
I don't know how often that happens.
That is mental.
Oh no, wait, was PSG one of those?
PSG, no, they've not won it.
No.
But like, should have won it.
Maybe I was still on. So Milan have, and Dortmund have.
I don't see Newcastle getting in that group.
You took Milan's best player, so
I know, but still, like, every game is a fucking nightmare. There, like,
it's not. That's a difficult group.
I think getting into the Europa League would be fine for Newcastle.
No, 100%, because
sure the board wouldn't be happy, but like,
so long if Sevilla drop into it, you would have a chance of winning that. I think it's going to be difficult, and the cauldron of St James's Park isn't going to really intimidate someone from Borussia Dortmund who plays in the Westfalenstadion or Signal Iduna Park, as it's called now. Like, because they're just used to that.
Yeah. San Siro,
exactly. Yeah, I mean the photo of Rui Costa and was it Materazzi? Where there's just like fire.
It's just like not going to be a full-scale fire
by a couple of drunk shirtless Geordies.
Launching pens at them.
So it's a real tough group. I think Man United should go through. I think Arsenal should go through, and I think City should go through. I know if City don't, like, something terrible has happened.
Yeah,
like cholera or TB or something like that. There's no way that they shouldn't be going through that. So no, I think most of the English teams will go through it, and you never know with Newcastle because it's your first time back in it in ages. That I
think they'll do well
motivation.
At home. I think with the atmosphere of St James's Park now. Like Tuesday, Wednesday night, I think they'll do all right at home, but I don't see them getting in that group.
And I've not been keeping track of how Dortmund or Milan have started this season, so I don't know how they're playing. It's a shame actually, because you won't be playing against Messi. Won't be coming to St James's Park, and Neymar's not there anymore. So a couple of the big names, that would have been really cool to go down and see them, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Last week's trivia question.
Oh yes.
Most OGs in the Premier League. Do you know it?
I do. Richard Dunn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Richard Dunn. He scored. As you see for his career, he scored 12 goals.
Aye.
But he scored 10 OGs. So his net return, so to speak.
His goal difference.
His goal difference was +2.
Do you know, I quite liked him as well. I thought he was a decent Premier League level. He was obviously not a top boy, but he was a decent Premier League level. I think Jamie Carragher was second in that list as well.
Yeah, loved an OG.
Which is funny. So do you have one for this week as well?
Aye, so Evan Ferguson, 18-year-old, scored a hat-trick. There's only like 3 other 18-year-olds that have scored hat-tricks, and one of them's Michael Owen, obviously. Yeah. But how many hat-tricks did he score before his 19th birthday?
That's a good question. I do know the answer, but that is a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Some of the other players that scored at 18, I think Robbie Fowler was one.
Yep, Robbie Fowler. And then there was some guy, I feel like, the early 90s that I'd never even heard of.
Well, that's something we can go away and look up since we've clearly forgotten. Well, I think that'll probably do us for this week.
Sorted, Dan.
Just to let you know, we won't be back next week because it's an international break, and Dan will be down in Saltburn, wherever that is, on Saturday. So if you're about Saltburn, come see me. I don't know why you would be.
I've heard this podcast is massive in Saltburn.
Well, Mark Nelson's playing as well, so you'll get to see him, and he's one of the best in the business. So if you're about Saltburn, come see us. Well, that's us. So it's goodbye from Patrick.
Catch you after.
And goodbye from me. Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
I'm going to keep doing that.